Okay, is this recording now? Good, 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 good. I just recorded this intro, spent the last 2 minutes talking to a microphone, realised hadn't pressed the record button. But those are the fun things about recording. Speaking of the fun things about recording, here we are, episode 2. It was actually the first recording that I did, and whilst the episode with David was released as the first episode, what you're going to hear now is my very first podcast recording and the very first guest interview that I did. It was really fun, really great conversation. For anyone who's recorded a podcast before, they know this. It can be a bit weird hearing your voice back, but also editing it and all the filler words and those sorts of things. But I think it turned out really well. I think it's a great episode. Can't wait for you to listen to it. And I guess that's the thing with podcasting, right? I'll get better at interviewing as I go along. The more people that I speak to, the easier it's going to become. I'm having so many cool conversations with people. I can't wait for you to hear all of them. But for now, let's get into it. Episode 2. Hello and welcome to the Collecting Heroes podcast. For anyone returning after the last episode, thank you for coming back. For any new listeners, really glad to have you here. My name is JD. I am the host, the collector of collectors, if you will. And I'm really excited today because myself, I am a Batman collector, and the character that we're going through today and the person I'm interviewing today collects Harley Quinn, who is part of the Batman universe. So can I give you a really big welcome and say hello, Puddin, to my guest, Angel Young. How are you going?
Pretty good.
That's good. And you're from Missouri in the US. Did I pronounce that right? My Australian accent. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I
Yeah.
that.
Missouri.
Yeah. All right. So with Harley Quinn, as I said, I'm a Batman fan myself, so I'm familiar with the character. But let's sort of go into that character for people who don't know much about Harley Quinn first. So Harley Quinn is a character that was part of the Batman animated series.
Yes.
Came out in 1992 was the first episode, and
Yes.
then made her way into her first comic appearance in 93, which is a bit of a backwards way of characters coming into the DC like you, right? Because normally
definitely.
everyone from comic book movies, whether it be Batman through to the Avengers, it always sort of comes from the comic book and then starts from the page and then ends up on the screen, whereas she started really on the screen, ended up on the page afterwards.
Yeah, she was supposed to just be like a little one-off, one and done.
Yeah,
but they really liked her.
Like a female henchman for the Joker, right?
Right. Yep.
And people would really know her because that iconic suit that she has, the red and black suit, like the Jester suit, which was also fashioned off a Days of Our Lives character, I believe, as well.
Yep. And it was played by Arlene Sorkin, who voiced Harley.
Exactly. She's been voiced by quite a number of people, but I think Arlene has done quite a number of things in the animated form, including some of the Arkham games, I believe, as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know for sure the first one.
Okay.
I think Tara took over with the second.
Tara Strong. That's
City.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tara Strong, who is I guess famous in voice acting circles.
Yes.
Does a lot of different comic characters. I'm trying to think. I know she's done quite a number. I think like My Little Pony and all sorts of different characters on different shows within pop culture. But yes, very very much this whole backwards sort of screen to page instead of page to screen, which is awesome. And I guess that sort of takes me into my first question for you, why Harley Quinn? Where did you first discover her? Was it the animated series, and what drew you to her as well?
It was the animated series. I've always loved Batman, and before Harley, like I was obsessed with Catwoman. Like I loved her. And I remember I was little and I watched Batman the Animated Series. And I remember the first time I saw her, I was just like, who is this girl? Like I loved the look and I loved like everything about her. But it, like obviously she was just kind of a brief part of that episode initially.
Yeah.
So it was a few episodes before I really like was like, oh, I love her. Yes, favorite character. And I think it was Bad Love that was actually the episode that like I got to see what she was capable of, and she was more than just like this goofy henchman in the background. She like Batman even said she was able to stop him where the Joker never could. And I was like, this character is amazing. I love her.
And
So
Mad Love is it's one of those iconic episodes really for her
yes.
character. Even for Joker, like as well, like the way it all plays with him. And I think they made that into a comic book of its own as well.
Yes.
So yeah, that's great. I think with Catwoman, I also, being a Batman fan myself, I started off with the '66 TV show, the classic one with Adam West, and all those characters were so sort of over the top that when I was a young boy and the Michael Keaton movie came out, I just was hooked from the start. And I know when Batman Returns came out behind that, having that Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman, every boy, every man was in love with Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman. I think she's still to this day probably one of the most iconic Catwomans.
Definitely.
Yeah. And how long have you been collecting for? So you said when you were a little girl you kind of became obsessed with the character. When did you first start collecting pieces? Was it something you bought with pocket money or something that was given to you as a gift for Christmas?
I mean, in a way, like I have my whole life, but I didn't really start actively thinking of anything as a collection until I was probably in high school. So like, I don't want to think about how many years ago that was. Probably, I don't know, 15 or so years. So
wow.
Like I've had some things since I was a child, and then like a lot of other things I've just gotten over the years.
And I did see, because you've been doing sort of like a question a day on Instagram at the moment, and later we'll go through your socials and then so everyone knows where to find you. But I know on your Instagram you had one of the questions was, what was the first piece you collected? So can you tell me about that first piece as well?
I'm not sure where my mom found it, because I think I had to be like 7 or 8 or something when we got it. But I remember like specifically the joy I had that I had like a figure, because especially where I lived, I didn't live near the big Warner Brothers stores or anything. So like I had to get whatever came to like Walmart or whatever stores were near us, Toys R Us, things like that.
Yep.
So I was very excited to find this character that I couldn't ever find anything of, like to have toys or merchandise.
And can you
so I remember
the listeners as well?
She's, let's see, what was the figure called? Knockout punching glove with trick gun or something like that. It's a little, probably like 3 or 4 inch tall, animated series classic figure. So she comes with accessories that I lost over time. I ended up repurchasing her later in like a box and left her in that one in the box.
Yeah.
Next to the original one.
As most collectors do, right? There's a lot of stuff that doesn't get out of the box.
Yeah.
And that knockout punch, so that was like one of those mechanical arms that sort of has like a spring loaded or something. Is that what it is? Excellent. One of the classic the toys. And it's funny actually, as collectors, we do have a lot of things as we get older that we buy because of the nostalgia. So you have this item that you played with as a little girl, and now as an adult you own again, but you have it where you can look at it in the packet and have that memory. But I think you've actually still got the original one, even though all the accessories might be with it. You've got both versions, which is, I think, is really, really cool. And so how many pieces do you think you currently have in your collection? Do you have an idea of how many you have at the moment?
I've spent a while trying to figure that out. I just spent like 3 days dusting and organizing everything this week.
I saw that on
So,
your YouTube. I saw that you were
yeah,
playing. Yep.
it took so long, but I think I was trying to like guess between like comics and like statues, figures, clothes, everything, maybe somewhere between 800 to 1,000 things.
Wow.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
I know from the photos that you sent me, I know looking at those photos, I thought, oh, maybe she's got a couple hundred, like
Yeah.
maybe 150 to 200, maybe even 300, but wow, almost 1,000 pieces. That's crazy.
I don't even have everything out on the shelves. Like, not everything's out on display.
Yeah, well, that was actually going to be my next question to you. Like, was, as collectors, we do always run out of space to sometimes, display things. So how do you go about storing some of those things? And do you swap things over time, like displaying things?
I definitely swap. Like, I have a ton of art prints and things like that. I swap those out all the time. And, like, I have some comics that are up on the wall, and I'll swap those out periodically. So, like, everything gets its chance to shine. But there's, like, kind of more random things. I have a bunch of, what is it, like, the word for it? Like, party decor stuff that's I got from a party shop that's like cups and different little things for some reason that you would have at a party. It's like plates and cups and all that kind of stuff with the classic design on it that I just kind of keep those put away. I have like collector's plates from the 90s from Warner Brothers that I don't have out on display because I'm afraid they're going to get broken. Things, just different things like that. Purses and backpacks and just all kinds of stuff. Capes. I have all kinds. I have like everything I could think of that like just won't easily fit on a shelf is just kind of like in a box in my closet until I can figure out how to put it up somewhere.
And it is funny when you're collecting these things, how you get that. I don't know what there's a term for it, like a psychological term for when you start looking for something or you're thinking of purchasing something, whether it be a car or whatever it be. And then you may not have seen many of them beforehand, but then once it's this conscious thing in the front of your mind, you can't not see them everywhere you go. So if you want to buy a certain car, you're going to see that car everywhere, because you notice it because it's in front of your mind. This is something I want. And I guess it's the same thing with Harley. You wouldn't normally notice all these things. And some of them, like you said, could be like sort of very odd pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But you see them everywhere you look now. You probably have this thing like anything red and black. You're kind of like a bowerbird with blue, right? Anything red and black. You see it on the shelf. Like, hey, is that Harley thing? Do I have that? And have you had that where you've actually purchased something, you got home, and you realize later, oh, hang on, I've already got this. Do you keep a list of some things? Like, how do you track that when you get to towards 1,000 pieces?
I remember. If I start to question it all, like, I'm lucky that I can like pull up Instagram on my phone and be like, do I have that? Did I get that? But usually I remember. It's everybody else that struggles to remember in my life. So a lot of times I don't get Harley as like a gift, unless they look at like my wish list or something, stuff that I need to get. Otherwise.
Yeah, the same thing with Batman. Like, most people don't buy me Batman gifts unless I tell them specifically it's something that I want. Same thing with like my Batman Lego collection. My girlfriend purchased me a heap of Batman Lego for my last for the last Christmas, and I was actually, when I say she purchased them, I actually went out and bought them all. We had a for Christmas. I bought them all. I said, there you go. There's all my Christmas presents for this. She just doesn't know. Like, if she goes and tries to buy them off the shelf, she may get me something that I've already got.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're talking about those things like the party supplies and everything like that, what would you say is the weirdest sort of Harley Quinn item that you have within your collection? I know there's something I noticed from the photos that you sent me. I don't know if is it what you're going to mention, but
it might be, it might not be. I know the weirdest one, like, people always comment on how ugly it is, and I love it. But I have I don't know if you know like what the whack-a-mole like arcade game things are.
Yeah.
Where you have like the hammer and the stuff pops up. There was a Batman one called Whack-A-Villain. and like the villains would pop up, and I have the Harley out of that machine. So I think that's my weirdest, and she's so ugly and she's so abused, but I love her.
When you're talking about, you're not talking about like a little one that you would buy from like Walmart or something for kids to play with. You're talking about like in an actual arcade like center where you go in to play whack-a-mole and bowling or whatever they call it. How did you get a hold of that piece? Be honest.
I'm guessing someone disassembled one, like disassembled the machine for some reason. And then a friend of mine was selling, she actually lives in Australia. She was selling some of her collection, and she's like, hey, you're like the most dedicated Harley person I know. She's like, I would rather this go to you than anybody else. So if you want to like buy it from me. And I was like, yes, I want that ugly thing. Give her to me and I will love her.
When I was looking at your collection, one of the things that I noticed that I thought would have probably stood out to a lot of people is the life-size Harley Quinn that you have in your collection as well.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Where did that one come from?
It's made by, I don't know how you say it, NECA Toys? NECA Toys?
Oh, yeah. ECA, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's made by them. It came out in 2016, and funny enough, like my brother kind of mocks me for my collection a lot, and he had made a joke. He's like, well, you can get like a big life-size statue of like Catwoman or Harley or something, that'd be cool. And I was like, oh, you don't know what's coming. And I had that statue delivered to me at work because I didn't want to risk leaving it like on my porch if it came in while I was at work. And I realized it was not going to fit in my car, and I had to call him to bring his truck. And he's like, what is this? What is this box? Like, it's a life-size Harley statue. You said that would be cool, so I got one.
And he's never made a suggestion since, has he?
Nope.
That's a great story. I also saw that you have like, it looks like a large like a banner from maybe like the cinemas for the Harley Quinn, which almost, when I first saw it because it's done in fluoro colors, I thought you actually had like some life-size neon sign up in your room, but it's just made to look like that in the style.
Yeah.
And that's from the most recent Harley Quinn movie, is it?
I think technically yes. It was from a costume store, Spirit Halloween. They had a huge like display this year, or last year technically, for Birds of Prey.
Yes.
So like they had this huge cardboard, really cool sign like that hung right above like all of the Harley costumes and like all the Huntress and Black Canary and all of that, above all their costumes. And I kept eyeballing it, and I went up to the employees one day. I'm like, so I know you like break down the store and get rid of everything. Can I get that sign when you close? So I went back like their last day when they were about to close and got the sign, and barely fit it in my trunk.
I completely get that. For the people listening, obviously we're doing this through a video chat where I can see you and you can see me. And you can see some of my Batman collection in the background, and you can actually see over my right shoulder, you may see the Batman, the large Batman there. And that I think that was actually from Batman vs Superman. And that was in a store here in Australia called Big W, and it's a similar thing where I saw this massive cardboard cutout. At the bottom of it actually says Team Batman. And I thought, I've got to have that for my collection. And I went in, and originally they were saying, I think the Warner Brothers representatives, they take it back, and I'm like, well, look, if anyway you can put this aside, I'll pay for it. I don't care. I just want this for my collection. And luckily they just let me put my mobile number on it. And when it was done with promotion, they called me and I was able to come pick it up. And so I'm really happy to have that in my collection. Is space an issue? Like, obviously, with the nearly 1,000 pieces, I imagine it is. The photos that you sent me, are they all from one specific room, or do we have, like, is this spilling out into other rooms of the house now?
Most of them are in a specific room. The sign we were just talking about is like over my bed right now because I couldn't find a a big enough spot in the room with everything else. So I took down a bunch of stuff that was on my wall in my bedroom. I'm like, we'll just put that here for now until I can figure something else out. For the most part, I have it under control. I'm starting to realize I'm gonna need to figure out some new shelving space soon, but for right now it's okay. It has its own room. It's all good.
Do you, like you mentioned your brother and everything, do you still live with your family at the moment? Do you have your own place?
Yeah, well, I technically I live with my mom. I have health issues, so I couldn't live on my own for a while. And now like I've got the boyfriend, but for a while it was just like can't live by myself. But my brother got a divorce and had to move back in, so now we're all crammed together, and I still demand a room for my stuff. I have the entire upstairs of my house to myself.
Because that's what I guess that was going to be my thing, or like my question. I know you've got your boyfriend, who you stay with, and early before we started recording, you mentioned the fact that you have things stored at his place as well.
Yeah.
Thinking if you guys like moved out together, specifically, would you have to find a house that had a certain room that would be the Harley room? Like, could you you couldn't live in a 1-bedroom apartment or a studio, for example, right?
No.
Like that wouldn't work.
Yeah, that's been a regular topic of discussion lately is figuring out a housing situation because of the amount of things I have. So
and I guess that's one of the trials, right? That's one of the challenges of being a collector. You know, you've got all these things that you love. You want to have somewhere to proudly display them.
Yeah.
You know, and definitely like you need that space. You know, and let your fandom show like wherever you live, you know. And so, what's your favorite version of Harley? I know you mentioned that you came to love her through the animated series, but is there a specific version? Because there's been so many different versions of Harley, right? There's been the animated version, there's now the comic version, and sort of different storylines within the comic version. Mm-hmm. For me, I love Injustice. I played the Injustice video game on mobile for years, and I absolutely love the written version of that as well. I think the storyline was fantastic. Matt Taylor, who's actually an Australian author, that actually helped to create that comic series. I've got the hardcover version signed by him, and I just love Harley in that form.
Yes,
probably one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, that's definitely Injustice. Harley is definitely one of my favorites. I'll like put aside animated series Harley because like that does like immediately fall into my favorite.
Yeah.
Pretty close to that same vein is like what Sean Murphy's doing with White Knight and the solo White Knight series. I actually got the very cool opportunity to like for the mini series. I don't know if you've got like seen it or got to read it or anything. The series they just wrapped up, like 6-issue Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn.
I've seen it, I haven't read it yet.
So for some reason, Sean Murphy noticed me in the grand scheme of everything and talked to me a lot about like the decisions they made with Harley in that series while they were writing the series.
Really?
Like kind of wanting, he kind of wanted like a dedicated fan's opinion on like the decisions they were making. He's like, do you think this is okay? Or what do you think about this? So like I ended up knowing most of the story before it came out.
So you got to help actually create the, like that little bit of that universe for Harley and then that character within that universe.
Yeah.
So it helped to shape her personality and then the way she was represented. That is fantastic.
And then like I got to there's a new suit she gets at the end of that series that he asked me like what my opinion for the name would be. So like I got to help name it, the suit. So I was like, this is it. This is peak Harley fan moment for me. I have contributed to her history. I can die happy.
Yeah. That look, there's not a lot of collectors out there. People who are diehard fans who get to say something like that. I think that's awesome. That's really awesome.
It's definitely the highlight.
I imagine Sean Murphy, he's probably sent you all sorts of signed, like maybe original artwork or anything like that.
Oh God, I wish.
You haven't got to do that? Come on,
I haven't.
At least paying you
I haven't yet.
Collectibles, right?
I did get a signed copy from him and his wife, because she's the one who wrote this miniseries with him.
Okay.
So I got a signed copy of the first issue of that, and he like drew a little Batman on the cover. So I mean, I kind of have like a little art thing.
Yeah.
And then
that counts.
Like he wants to like meet up whenever conventions are a thing again and stuff like that, and like or for I think the nicest thing that they've done is I had COVID before Christmas, and I was miserably sick, and he's like, well, if you're up for it, me and Katana can call you later. And I was like, okay, that would be cool.
That's
so like they called and talked to me for like 45 minutes, I think, just like talking like perfectly nice, normal people. Like it was cool. I was like, I don't feel like I'm cool enough, and I'm coughing and sick the whole time. I'm so sorry.
They sound like really nice people.
They really are. Like, a part of me is like, I don't want to brag that they did that, but at the same time, like, it speaks a lot for what really nice people they are.
Yeah,
to, like, care.
I think it also speaks a lot to the community, right? Like, I talk about fandom and I talk about pop culture. I'm going to have so many different people on here from different places around the world on this show. So if I only had one person who's actually said no thank you to being on the podcast, everyone within the different communities, they all embrace each other, and having people who are actually creating that art as well, really embrace someone like yourself within that community. Obviously they were able to lean on your expertise and, the knowledge that you have, but just being so nice, not just using you for your knowledge, but actually when you're at a time of need, when you're sick, actually reaching out to you. That's fantastic. And as I said, I think it really speaks to the people and the power of that community that we have as well.
Definitely.
Look, I've been talking to you for quite a while now, and thank you so much for being on the show. But before we do actually wrap things up, I just wanted to spring a little pop quiz on you and see how you go. And like, based on your stories before about being a professional Harley Quinn consultant for the I guess you could say now.
I guess that's true.
I'm going to ask you some questions, which will be incredibly easy for you, I'm sure, most of these. But I just thought it'd be a little fun way to wrap things up is to have this little pop quiz. And so here we go. We've got 5 questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So here you go. Nice, easy one, I think, to start off. And I think they're all going to be easy for you, honestly. What was Harley's name before she became Harley Quinn?
Like her regular name?
Regular name, yes.
Okay. Dr. Harleen Quinzel.
Ding, ding, ding. I have to get sound effects for this. So, also, what are her nicknames for the Joker?
Puddin is one of the most prominent ones.
Yep.
Oh gosh. Angel Face. I know that one.
Puddin.
Oh no.
There was another one I was thinking of as well.
I'm trying to think on the spot.
It's got
I know.
It's got an initial in it. I'll give you that hint.
Oh, Mr. J. Yeah.
Of course. There we go. Ding, ding,
I don't know.
ding.
The pressure was getting to me.
It's all right. You're doing well. You're doing great. So you're 2 for 2. All right. I mean, Puddin was an acceptable answer straight away. Okay. So question number 3: Joker and Harley's daughter. What is her name?
From Injustice is Lucy.
Lucy. Yes.
They have a daughter in another one, but I know that you haven't read it yet, so.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
That's why I was like, wait, should I clarify?
And see, this is where I say that, these questions, you're the professional, you'll probably know more than I do. Like, these are easy questions. But Lucy was the correct answer that I was looking for. And can you tell me the name for extra points? Can you tell me the name of the other daughter?
Oh, for the one I was talking about?
Yes.
Bryce.
Bryce. I'm gonna say ding 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 because obviously you know the answer and I don't know that one.
She has twins, Jackie and Bryce.
Ah, okay, Jackie and Bryce.
So a boy and a girl.
Nice, nice. Okay, what are the names of Harley's hyenas in the animated series?
Bud and Lou.
Uh-huh. And for bonus points, what is the name of her hyena in the movie universe?
Bruce.
And ding, ding, ding again. All right, so last question. This one is connected as well. What famous director named his daughter after Harley Quinn?
Kevin Smith.
Yes, yes. Also, when we're talking about the pop culture community, I think most people know who Kevin Smith is as well.
Mm-hmm. He's also one of the coolest people I've ever met.
I would love to meet him. I actually, speaking of Kevin Smith, I went to the Clerks 2 premiere here in Sydney many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. And he did a Q&A afterwards. So it was actually, they played it in a theatre, and afterwards he came out on stage and he did a Q&A where I was one of the people that asked him the question. I can't even remember the name of the question, or what the question was now. But he spoke for like more than 2 hours doing this QA after the movie, and it was literally got to midnight, and they were actually giving him the wrap up, and they were like had someone come on stage and tell him, and he's like, "Oh, they're telling me I've got to go now." Like, so literally we're kicking him off stage. Like, you've been talking too long now. You got to shut up. Stop taking more questions, because he would have like sat there until all hours of the morning, I think, taking questions and talking about how much of a nice person he is. He really loves it. He loves engaging with the fans.
I do have I have a cool story about him if you have time, really quick.
Yeah, of course.
So I went. Let's see. It was November 2015. I went to Reno, Nevada for a convention. I was going because Adam West and Burt Ward were there, and like I was having a lot of, like I said earlier, I have health issues. I was having a lot of issues. I was getting ready to have a big surgery I was nervous about, and so like this was like my getaway gift from my mom. She's like, let's go on a trip, take some time away from all that.
Awesome.
And Kevin and Jason Mewes were doing one of their shows there, and then Jason was going to be a guest at the con, and they set up a photo op for just like 1 hour. You could get a dual photo op with Kevin and Jason, like a Jay and Silent Bob photo op. And I was like, I'm never going to get the chance to be that close to Kevin again, so I'm going to do that. And that's probably the only time I'm going to get to meet him. So that morning I was feeling kind of off, but I went ahead and went to the con, and I got in line for the photo op, and my mom was like, I'm going to go look at other stuff while you do that. So she left me alone, and I was like, I don't feel well. Like, I feel like I'm going to pass out. Oh. And I tried to get out of the line because I didn't want to like pass out and hit someone.
Yeah.
And I started to get out of the line and ended up passing out. Like, I got sick, like vomited, passed out.
Oh,
like
no.
It was horrible, and it was in front of all of these people, and it was right at the entrance to the photo op, so like I could see them while I was laying and waiting for the paramedics to come, because they had to call the paramedics for me. And by the time I got done with everything, and they got me back on my feet, because I was just rough, Kevin had left, and I was so heartbroken. So my mom's like, well, let's go see Jason. He's signing at his booth. At least you can meet him. And I was like, yeah, I guess. So, hours later, we went to do that. And got an autograph and stuff. We were talking, and then we were getting ready to walk away. And my mom said, well, at least you got to meet Jason, even though you didn't get your picture. And he's like, whoa. You didn't get to get your picture? And I was like, yeah, I passed out. And he's like, oh, I saw that. I saw somebody had gotten sick and passed out. That was you. I'm like, yeah, I missed the photo op because I was with the paramedics. So he's like, that's terrible. He's like, Kevin left, but like, he's like, we'll take selfies and stuff. It'll be fine. No, and I was like, okay, yeah, that does help. And then after a few minutes before I left, he was like, you know what? No, give me your phone number. I'm going to see if Kevin's still at the hotel. And I happened to be staying at the same hotel as Kevin, so it worked out. He's like, I'm going to get a hold of him. You go back to the hotel, and I'll call you and like have you meet him in the hotel lobby. And I was like, okay. And I cried because I was not feeling great, and that was incredibly kind. And I remember waiting in the lobby after he called later, and he's like, okay, Kevin's going to be in the lobby at this time on his way to the airport. So he's going to be looking for you. Just go wait there. And I was like, okay, cool. And I remember like I saw him walk around the corner, and he's like locked eyes with me, and I pointed at him and he pointed at me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting for you. And he like hugged me, even though, you know, I'd passed out and I was sick. He didn't know what was wrong with me, but he hugged me. He's like, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And like all of this, I was like, yeah, I'm okay, but thank you. And then he talked, we took pictures. Yeah, he was so nice. Like to take the time on your way to the airport after you've had a long day was so nice. Like he didn't have to do that, but
exactly,
that was really cool.
Exactly, like he's such a busy man. I'm sure, like, you know, with these conventions when they're traveling in and out, they're probably doing it in between other jobs. You know, like you know. So that is fantastic that he and. Again, I go back and say, you know, broken record, the power of the community, you know, and some of the nice people, you know, that can be within that as well. And look, I think that's a fantastic story. I wish I'd got a chance to meet him, but I definitely don't want to have to pass out to do that.
Yeah, I don't recommend that part. Like the rest of it was one of the best days ever, but that part was terrible, so don't do that.
And your health issues, I don't want to go into too much of that here, but you're improving. Obviously, things are better.
I mean, it's kind of an off and on thing. I have an autoimmune disease, so like sometimes things are better than other times.
Okay.
So
yeah. Oh well.
Made COVID fun.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. Look, I mean, you managed to kick COVID, right? So you're obviously not too bad, like, which is good. Look, I'm gonna wrap things up here, but thank you so much for being on the show. It's been great.
Thank you for having me.
But before you go, where can people find you? So give yourself a plug for socials. Where can people find you and see this awesome collection that you're talking about as well?
Instagram is AngelYoung13. Same for Twitter. And my YouTube is just my name. It's Angel Young. So yeah, those are probably the best places to find me.
Yeah, and I think there's some great videos up there as well. You know, where people can see that. And as I said, I was recently watching your latest spring cleaning. Yes, it is one of the challenges of being a collector is trying to keep the collection clean, right? When you've got that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, you know, it's a good, honest video. I love those things. So thank you very much for being on the show. Again, it's been great having you on here. And thank you to you, the listener, for tuning in and listening to the podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So thank you.
If you like the episode, please consider following or subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also join me on Instagram at Collecting Heroes, where you can see photos of the collections of the people that I'm talking to, as well as some of my own.